Okay, we continue learning Hilchos Shabbos. We learned yesterday about removing stirring dishes, etc. And we concluded that hot water you'd be able to take off even while it's on the flame. And we're not worried about any level of hagasa because it's all hot water together. We continue with Sif Mem, says the Shemiras Shabbos, in all the cases, that you could take out food, you have to be makri not to be in a kli. Sheboy, what do you mean? You should not utilize a kli sheboy mishtamshin l'shema yitzah that is being used to take out the food. Noizlim oishiyari oichel, either leftover drops or food. Shaloi nitbashlu kol tarkon. Saying a very simple din. We're on page Yud Zayin, we're middle of Sif Mem. He's saying that when I'm taking out my chalent, if I take a ladle that has dirty water on it. And what's the dirty water on it from? The sink. So what's that water? Is that water cooked? No, the water in your sink is not cooked. So therefore, what do you have? You have a liquids which are not cooked on your ladle. If you now put them into your pot, you're going to be cooking that liquid. Similarly, what? No. Well, we have to see. I don't want to talk about droplets yet because that's going to be a separate heter. But similarly, he says the case in which if I served something prior and that food was not cooked, that's what he's referring to. Even if the pot is on the fire, why? Because we know that a kli rishain avada cooks even when it's not on the flame, as in Hara Kovav, he points out the kli rishain avashel feel it cooks even when it's off the flame. Shamat. Here it is. This is what I believe you were referring to, Rabbi Kiffel. Says, I didn't say you're wrong. We like to first say the case so we don't confuse people. So say the case that he's talking about, and then we add on to the case. So the case in the Sif was that I utilized the ladle for something prior, and now I can't put it into the pot. Says Rishon Mizalmin, Shema Matzakateinu Nikiya. If it was not clean, Mishir Eichel Yeveshim Shekvar Nitbashlu, from dry foods already cooked. In lahakbid loitzi mekdira gam b'shosh omed zagabish ki gam leish naktina dein bishul acher bishul. You don't have to be makbid even when it's on the fire because dein bishul acher bishul. Excuse me, it's not your case. He's talking about dry things. He's talking about dry things. He's talking about if on the ladle there were oichel yeveshim, dry foods that were already cooked, then you do not have to worry about it because dein bishul acher bishul. I guess that would be a case of like I don't know, a piece of meat stuck on the ladle or something like that. You don't have to be worried about it. Now, your case, you're talking about a heter and droplets. He's not getting involved in that right now. He's talking about properly dirty ladles. Sif, mem, aleph. And he continues. He says a dirty ladle from something not cooked cannot go back into the pot, whether it's on the flame or whether it's off the flame. Again, to have the case that he's talking about, it's a little bit difficult. I'll tell you a case. I don't know if people necessarily do this. You just serve coleslaw. So what do you serve coleslaw? You're at your industrial kitchen. You serve with a ladle. Is coleslaw cooked? No. So therefore, it's, I shouldn't say no so emphatically, because I think coleslaw is made out of mayonnaise, and mayonnaise might be cooked, right? I'm not sure. But let's say you just finished serving some dips, which weren't cooked. Find the case. I don't care what the case is. And with that ladle, you now want to put into your challah. That's the case he's talking about. A ladle that's laden with uncooked items, that cannot be put into the pot. It could be. No, because I just want to get out of the case that if it's just a droplet or two, it could be there's a different heter, which he's not talking about right now. So that's why I'm just trying to make it a dirtier case. But ein hachanami, and he says, look at Sifmet Nun Dalid. You know, so I think in Sif Nun Dalid, he gets involved. Yeah, fine. Let's if everyone wants to do this, let's skip to Nun Dalid, okay? Everyone flip a few pages to page Chavav, and he has a whole sif on matzekes, which is a ladle. Hamatzekes shaba moitzin is a tavshel mikli rishon. A ladle that you're taking food out of a kli rishon. Min adin lahalacha shtei nikiya v'yavesha. The ladle should be clean and dry, like we saw in Sif Mem, which is what we just learned. Ukshemachnisa b'kedera achrei apam rishona. When you put it back in the pot, yakvid, you should be careful. Sheshiyori atav shel shaba, that the food that's on the ladle, lo yehei karim, should not be cold. Meaning, if your ladle from your cholent, even though it was fully cooked, is sitting on the side, and now you have cold cholent on it, you should be careful because it could recook it. Umikivan, and since shekasher machlis is masechet kli rishon, putting it back into kli rishon. Ubefrat, and certainly he mikvahs kol dini kli rishon as mamish didn't have a kli rishon, and therefore you could have a problem. Also, because when you come to cook the leftovers that are on the ladle, and that's all. That's all. If it's cold, your ladle is never going to be cold. You're going to take a soup and you're going to put it in, and then you're going to put it back into the salbiat. The case would be, let's say you took soup and you left the ladle on the counter, and inside the ladle head, or whatever that thing is called, there's cold soup. That would be the case he's talking about. But yeah, not the most common case. Memalf, back to us. Tavshil shein b'shikol tzark. We have food that's not fully cooked. Or you're not sure if it's fully cooked. It's sitting on a fire. Now, how did this happen? Classic. You made a mistake. You opened up the pot. You opened up the cholent to check inside. You open it up. You go, hey, I forgot that I put up the cholent very late on Friday. So you look inside and you realize it's not fully cooked. What are you allowed to do now? You're not allowed to cover it with the cover. You can't even use a plate. You can't use any form of cover. Now, he's being emphatic over here that you can't use any form of cover, meaning don't think that for some reason it's only using the actual pot cover. Why? Because why are you not allowed to cover it? Says Arakuf Ches, because by covering it, it hastens the cooking. It cooks quicker. It cooks quicker. Let's continue that Ara for a moment. It's fully cooked. It's in upon the top of a covered flame. Gamkin. This is a big one. Toiv lahachmer v'loy lechsaisai. Mikivan. What's the reason? Shekisa gideir kumaya galsa. Covering a pot is similar to stirring it. The machmina by the gabish. Ella, what should he do? Yasirena. Should remove the pot. Yechasena. You should cover it. Kshi biyadai oy al gabi kise. Now, this is very important for the following reason. To get this case is difficult, because why is your cholent uncovered on the flame is odd. So there's one or two ways this can happen. One or three ways. Either you opened it up to check the cholent. Okay, don't do that. Good. Number two is, let's say you're being makel like we saw yesterday. It's a massive cholent pot that you can't take off. So you're being makel to take when it's on the flame. So he's pointing out to take when it's on the flame is one level, but you still shouldn't cover it. Now, l'chayra, if you look at his lashon, he's saying it's a toiv lahachmir. Avada, in that same makom atzarech, you can cover it while it's on the flame. Now, another case, which I think happens commonly, is you're doing regular chazara. You take your crack pot, you take it off, you open it up, you hold it in your hand, you take out the cholent, and then what? I think often, just because of the fact you only have two hands, people don't cover it and then put it back. Often it's in your hand, you finish serving your bowl, so you take the crack pot, you put it back in, you take the cover, you put it back on. That you should not optimally do in English, not Lou. You should cover the pot before you put it back on. He says, now another line, V'yesh. Correct, that is not the right thing to do. V'yesh, that's what you say, Tev Lach. Now, slow, before more questions. V'yesh, or middle, the Rebbe is in the middle of Shir Klali. V'yesh, lasim leiv. One should place their heart. One should pay attention in English. Shaham should be Yehei Yavesh, should be dry. Why? Pen titafna tipotas ononot. Because maybe, listen carefully what he just said. The cold droplets might drip. Shebetzad tachton shel hamechser from the bottom of the cover. L'teichas havshel. V'yebazem misham bishul acher bishul. Ayin shoti ad levi. Void. Shaitim satzan nezeh ilim ischamos v'achas zeh shal havshel. Even if it doesn't drip in, those little droplets get heated up from the zeh of the food. If you're going straight onto a flame, which I'm not sure how you have such a case, because Yeshmak. No. Laisa ish b'chosa. Avlatashel u'mishachol kazar. Yeshmakom lahakel. L'chsais is a kedera. Ima amnan amechsa u'yavish. Kiv shein yachol asher tzdeira lachzir leisha acher kisoi. Oh, very good. Kanal Arkov Beis. Very good. This is our case. Excuse me, I jumped the gun. This is the case we just said. Let's say the Shalom Zachar, that the pot's too big to take off. So then what are you going to do? In that case, what are you going to do? You're going to be mekel to take the food off while it's on the fire. So that will be a case that will be allowed to cover it. Yishmakim la'akil, to cover the pot, even when it's on the fire. Okay, let's just summarize what we just said, because these are both very negeya and very, very asked shaylas. Number one, you cannot, if the food is not fully covered, cooked, as we mentioned many times, can't touch it, can't do anything, can't even cover it. Number two, the food is fully cooked. When are you allowed to cover it? Lechatchila, off of the flame. So as Rabbi Katzun, he just pointed out, what do you do? You want to do the classical Friday night, you walk home, you open the chant, give a good whiff, and close it. That is not lechatchila. Why is that not lechatchila? Zok the Rebbe. Covering a pot does what? Cook faster. What does that mean in the science? If you were to zoom in on the particles, what would you see? You see them bouncing around very, very fast. When you cover it, you see them bouncing even fast. You know what that's called? That's called hagasa. That's called you disturb the pot, which you're not allowed to do when it's on the flame. Therefore, lechatchila, you should not cover it, it's on the flame. Number three, let's say you took off the challah, you served your challah, and then you want to put it back. First, cover it before you put it back. Number four, you have to dry the chalent lid before you put it back. Zokter shemizalmin. Let's just say he's lushin properly. Lus yasim leiv. You should pay attention. It should be dry. Now, I would like to. Yes. Now, let's pay attention. Thank you. Let's understand why. What potentially why you wouldn't have to pay attention. What are those droplets? Cooked, warm, and you're putting them back where they came from. So why are we really worried about them? So the answer is, he said very carefully that they might be cold. And they cool fast. Therefore, because they cool off, he's worried the droplet will cool off. And then it's a cold, pre-cooked liquid, which halacha is, yesh bishlach b'sh. Now I just want to introduce a scientific fact that the Olam could all test in their crackpots the next time they take it. The same amount of time that it cools off, you know what else happens? It evaporates. Those droplets. Now, I recently realized it depends what type of crackpot you have. Depends type of crackpot you have. Depends if you have the regular covers. Those dry much faster. The other crackpot, which is just the base on the bottom, the heat base, which it's become very popular now. It's a Jewish company that's been selling it, and even comes with a black thing at the bottom. That cover goes both ways. The cover, either it's a glass cover. I haven't I've gotten this crackpot, so I realize I understand this more for the first time in my life. I always used to say the cover is a few droplets, they dry up fast and move on. There, it's a cover that you can either put deep side in or deep side up. The point of the story is it gets very, very wet. It's a lot of liquid, so much so I find myself every time I take it off using a towel because it pushes water everywhere, and therefore the black on the bottom. It's a piece of metal that comes on and off to use as a black. So if it's cold, now by the way, if you're fast enough, it's not going to be cold, then you won't have a problem. But that is drying off the cover. It's the same thing. Again, so we're just combining things. So it says to shake it off because they're saying in Elamai there might be a droplet. That one droplet is, we're going to see, that's what Meir was pointing out before, that if your coffee cup, if you have 2 droplets in the bottom, if you shake it out, they say it's enough. Why is it enough? Because like the Chazon Ish, if there's 1 or 2 drops, then it's a psikration, and a miskavian, and it's motor. You can only say that once you shake it out, because that means that there's only a dot there. But that's a different tire. Let's first say what he says. He says to dry it off. Let's just go back to the top and finish up the sif. Even if you remove the pot for the fire, also the chasaisa mikivan shemkiza gederu gairim atavshel yosef atavshel. Again, this is talking about a case where it's not fully cooked. Chamin, chalent, shabem atzamot shalof. Here it goes again. Here's our bones. If you remove and musar amechse yakrish al chazek der lemkein Rakais uruyas la'achila. This goes back to that age-old shaila. Do you need the chicken bones to mamish be edible? Avada in Eretz Yisrael, so you shall be delicacy to eat the chicken bones, and therefore they want it to be very soft. So Shem Zalman is saying a mayurdik, it's really a chumrah, saying if you take Shalom Friday night and you have these bones and the bones are not fully cooked, you cannot cover back the pot. You also can't do chazara because it's not fully cooked. And we'll pick it up from here. B'siyata d'shmaya.